In the coastal village of Adara, where the mighty Atlantic Ocean embraced the shores of Nigeria, lived Baba Jide, a fisherman whose restless spirit matched the ever-moving waves. Unlike other fishermen who honored Olokun, the deity of the ocean, with gratitude for each catch, Baba Jide's heart festered with greed. His small wooden hut stood at the village edge, where he lived with his wife Folashade and their 3 children, Kayode, Titilayo, and little Ayomide. "Baba, why can't we have new clothes like Mama Bisi's children?" Kayode would ask, his young eyes reflecting the setting sun. "Pele omo mi, soon," Baba Jide would reply, though his nets brought in enough fish to live comfortably. His childhood friend, Taiwo Adewale, often tried to counsel him during their evening gatherings under the ancient Iroko tree. "Baba Jide, my brother," Taiwo would say, gesturing to the ocean, "Olokun provides for those who respect her waters. Our ancestors taught us to take only what we need." But Baba Jide would scoff. "The ocean holds treasures beyond mere fish, Taiwo. You think too small." In the depths of that same ocean, the kingdom of the Olokun's children thrived. These weren't the pale, fish-tailed creatures of foreign tales, but magnificent beings with scales that shimmered like precious coral and cowries. Their upper bodies resemble humans, but their lower halves were adorned with elaborate fins that moved like flowing Adia fabric in water. The young ones played among coral forests, their laughter rippling through the water like music. Queen Moremi, the eldest of the water spirits, ruled this underwater realm. Her palace, crafted from living coral and adorned with luminescent sea flowers, served as both home and sanctuary for her people. The young water spirits would often swim near the surface, playing games with dolphins and helping lost fish find their way. Everything changed on the day of the Ocean Festival. While the villagers celebrated on the shore, performing rituals to honor Olokun, Baba Jide discovered something mysterious tangled in his nets, a new net that seemed to be woven from threads of gold and cowrie shells glowing with an otherworldly light. Iya Aladura, the village's spiritual mother, saw him examining the net and immediately sensed its power. "Baba Jide, put that back in the water," she commanded, her voice cutting through the festival drums. "That is Olokun's property. Such things are not meant for mortal hands." But Baba Jide pretended not to hear her over the festivities. That same night, while the celebration continued on shore, he took his boat out to the deep waters where the young water spirits played. The net moved like a living thing in his hands, almost guiding itself as he cast it into the water. When he pulled it back, 3 young water spirits lay entangled in its meshes. Their scales glowed with all the colors of coral, and their eyes held the wisdom of the deep. They spoke in voices that sounded like waves breaking on shore. "Please," one of them begged in Yoruba, "we are children of Olokun. Our mother will be looking for us." But Baba Jide saw only profit. He had heard of a mysterious merchant in Lagos who paid handsomely for rare creatures. He covered them with old fishing nets and headed toward the mainland. Meanwhile, in the underwater palace, Queen Moremi felt the disturbance in her waters. She called her most trusted advisor, Adesewa, whose tail sparkled like black pearls. "Something is wrong," Queen Moremi said, her crown of living coral pulsing with agitation. "The children, I cannot feel their presence in my waters anymore." Adesewa volunteered immediately. "My queen, let me take human form. I will find our children." "Be careful, Adesewa," the queen warned, touching her forehead with a glowing hand. "The surface world has changed much since the days when we freely walked both land and sea. Humans have forgotten the old ways." Adesewa's transformation was beautiful and painful. Her tail split into legs, her gills became smooth skin, but her eyes retained the depths of the ocean. Taking the human name Adana, she made her way to shore, just as dawn was breaking. As Babajidi's wealth grew, strange things began happening in Adara. The ocean, once generous with its fish, became stingy. The waters turned dark and angry, and fishermen returned with empty nets. But most disturbing were the sounds, mournful songs carried on the wind, making mothers hold their children closer at night. Folashade, Babajid's wife, noticed how the shells on their doorstep would arrange themselves into patterns of warning each morning. She consulted Iya Aladura, who cast her cowrie shells with trembling hands, and declared, "Olokun's anger grows with each passing tide." In Lagos, Babajidi had found a wealthy merchant named Otunba Adeleke, who kept a private collection of mysterious creatures in an old warehouse near the lagoon. The Otunba had hired Akin, a renowned marine researcher who had long ago turned his back on traditional warnings about respecting ocean spirits. Unknown to them, Adesewa, now known as Adana, had secured a position as a cleaner in the warehouse. Each night, she would sing to the captured water spirit children, promising them rescue. She watched as more arrived each week, brought in by Babajid's cursed net. The water spirit children were kept in tanks lined with coral, but they grew weaker each day, their scales losing their luster. Adana, heartbroken, seeing them trapped behind glass, their songs of sorrow reaching only her ears. Then the ocean's revenge began. Children started vanishing from Adara. First, Babajid's youngest, Iomide, then others. They would be there at sunset, gone by sunrise, their beds still warm but empty. Iyaloja Adeniki, the market mother and keeper of traditions, called an emergency gathering. "The balance is broken," she announced to the frightened villagers. "Someone has stolen from Olokun, and now she takes what is precious to us in return." That night, as the village gathered to discuss the disappearances, the ocean itself seemed to rise. Queen Moremi appeared at the shoreline, her form both beautiful and terrible. The water around her feet glowed with bioluminescent creatures, and her voice carried the power of the depths. "People of Adara," she spoke, her words carrying to every ear, "your greed has awakened the old powers. Return our children, or yours will become creatures of the deep, never to walk on land again." Folashade, who had begun to suspect her husband's role in these events, confronted him publicly. "What have you done?" she demanded, her voice breaking. "What did you steal from the ocean that cost us our daughter?" Babajid fell to his knees in the sand, the weight of his actions finally crushing him. But confessing wouldn't be enough. The water spirit children were held in Lagos, and Otunba Adeleke wouldn't give up his precious collection easily. In the crowd, Adana watched silently. She had already organized an alliance with other water spirits who had taken human form. They had infiltrated every level of Otunba Adeleke's operation, waiting for the right moment to strike. As the moon rose over Adara, painting the angry ocean silver, three forces prepared for a confrontation. The desperate villagers led by Taiwo and Iyaloja, the vengeful water spirits under Queen Moremi, and Adesewa's covert rescue operation. At the center of it all, Babajidi faced the terrible price of his greed, knowing that before the next moon, he would either redeem himself or lose everything to the depths. The waters off Adara's coast churned with unnatural fury as Queen Moremi's ultimatum hung in the air like heavy storm clouds. In the underwater palace, the missing human children floated in a magical bubble of air, watched over by gentle water spirits who kept them comfortable but unable to return to land. Little Iomide, Babajid's daughter, showed no fear. Instead, She seemed fascinated by the water spirits, especially their elaborate fins and glowing scales. "Your tail looks like my mother's best Adia cloth," she told her caretaker, a young water spirit named Olayinka. "Will I grow one too?" Olayinka's heart ached at the child's innocent question. "Only if your father fails to return our brothers and sisters," she replied softly. Meanwhile, in Lagos, Adesewa had gathered her allies. Among them was Yewande, another water spirit who had taken human form and worked as Otunba Adeleke's secretary. Together, they had mapped every detail of the warehouse where their kinfolk were held captive. "The tanks are powered by generators," Yewande reported during a secret meeting in the mangrove swamps. "If we cut the power, the filtration systems will fail." "But our children could suffer without clean water," Adesewa worried, her human legs aching with the desire to return to her true form. "I have a solution," came a voice from the shadows. It was Kahinda, Taiwo's twin sister, and Adara's most skilled herbalist. "Our ancestors had ways of communicating with Olokun's children. I can prepare a mixture that will help them survive the journey home." Back in Adara, Babajide had fallen into deep despair. His wife, Folashad, had moved in with her sister, taking their remaining children with her. The village that once respected him now turned their backs when he passed. Iya Aladura found him sitting on the beach, staring at the cursed golden net. "The net was a test," she said, settling her aged frame in the sand beside him. "Olokun wanted to see if you would choose wisdom over wealth." "How do I make this right?" Babajide asked, his voice hoarse. The old priestess pulled out her cowrie shells, casting them in the sand. "See how they form the pattern of a circle. What is taken must be returned. But beware, the path to redemption is never straight." In Lagos, Otunba was hosting a private viewing of his collection. Wealthy collectors from across the country had gathered to bid on the water spirit children who had grown listless in their tanks. "Notice their unique scales," Akin was saying, tapping on the glass. "Each pattern is—" He was interrupted by a sound that made everyone freeze, a deep, resonant hum that seemed to come from the ocean itself. The water in the tanks began to vibrate. Adesewa, still in her disguise, smiled. The sound was Queen Moremi's call, the signal to begin their rescue. Suddenly, the power went out, plunging the warehouse into darkness. In the chaos that followed, Yewande locked the exit doors, while other disguised water spirits began chanting in ancient tongues that made the humans' heads spin. "What's happening?" Otunba demanded, but his voice was drowned out by a more powerful one. The concrete floor cracked as seawater burst through, bringing with it Queen Moremi herself, now in her full, magnificent form. Her coral crown blazed with internal light, and her scales shimmered with all the colors of dawn. "You dare cage the children of Olokun?" Her voice boomed, making the remaining glass tanks shatter. The wealthy collectors fled in terror, slipping and sliding on the wet floor. Otunba Adeleke tried to reach his office, where he kept documents detailing his illegal trades, but Yewande blocked his path. "Your greed ends tonight," she declared, her human disguise melting away to reveal her true form. Babajide, who had followed Kahinda to Lagos, witnessed everything. He saw the water spirit children, weak but alive, being gently gathered by their rescuers. He saw Adesewa transform back into her magnificent true self, her black pearl scales gleaming in the darkness. "I can help," he stepped forward, his voice trembling but determined. "I know where others are being held. Let me make this right." Queen Moremi turned her ancient eyes upon him. "The one who caused this suffering now seeks to end it. Why should we trust you? Because he finally understands the price of greed, came another voice. Aloy Adeniki stepped out of the shadows, carrying a clay pot of Kehindi's prepared mixture. I have watched him these past days. His remorse is genuine. The rescue operation turned into something more complex, a mission of redemption. Through the night, Babajid led them to other locations where water spirit children had been sold. At each place, the same scene played out: power failures, mysterious floods, and liberation. By dawn, the last of the captured water spirit children had been freed. They gathered in the lagoon, their scales slowly regaining their luster as they touched their native waters. But the story wasn't over. Queen Moremi turned to Babajid, her expression unreadable. "You have helped free our children," she said, "but a price must still be paid. Come with me to our realm. See what your actions have cost us. Only then can we discuss the return of your daughter." Babajid looked at the rising sun, then at the dark waters. Without hesitation, he stepped into the waves. "I will return," he told Kehinda and Aloy Adeniki. "Tell Folashad. Tell her I'm fixing what I broke." Queen Moremi raised her hands and tea. He waters wrapped around Babajidi like a cocoon. Together, they descended into the depths, where the true test of his redemption would begin. Descending into Olokun's realm was like entering another world entirely. Babajid felt the water pressure around him, but Queen Moremi's magic kept him breathing. As they went deeper, the darkness gave way to an astonishing sight: a city of living coral, gleaming with bioluminescent light, its spires reaching up through the water like the towers of a forgotten civilization. "Baba," a familiar voice called out. Iomide was swimming toward him, but she was changed. A temporary gift from the water spirits had given her the ability to breathe and move underwater, though she remained fully human. "Omo mi," Babajidi tried to embrace her, but his movements were slow in the water. "Have they treated you well?" "Oh, Baba, it's wonderful here. Look what I learned." His daughter twirled in the water, moving with unexpected grace. "Olayinka has been teaching me their songs." Queen Moremi's voice cut through their reunion. "She has indeed learned our ways quickly, perhaps too quickly. Already she bears the touch of our magic. Stay too long in Olokun's realm, and the change becomes permanent." The weight of her words hung heavy in the water. Babajid realized this was part of his punishment, seeing how close he was to losing his daughter, not just to distance, but to transformation. In the palace's grand hall, other water spirits gathered, including those who had been captured. Many still bore marks of their captivity: dulled scales, haunted eyes, fins that didn't quite move right. "Behold the cost of your greed," Queen Moremi gestured to them. "Each damaged scale, each broken spirit. This is what your golden net has wrought." One young water spirit, barely older than Iomide, swam forward. His once brilliant red scales had faded to pale pink. "Why?" he asked simply. "Why did you take us from our home?" Babajid found himself without words. Every justification he had once used seemed meaningless in the face of this child's pain. Meanwhile, above the waves, Adara village was transforming. Led by Aloy Adeniki and Kehinde, the villagers had begun new rituals to honor Olokun. They cleaned the beaches of debris, established new fishing guidelines to prevent overfishing, and most importantly, taught their children the old stories of respect for the ocean. Folashade spent her days at the shoreline, watching and waiting. Kehinda kept her company, teaching her the ancient songs that were said to reach the ocean's depths. "Your voice carries love," Kahinda told her, that travels deeper than any sound. Back in the underwater palace, Babajid was learning hard truths. Queen Moremi had him work alongside the healing water spirits, tending to those who had been captured. He learned their names, their stories, their songs. He helped exercise damaged fins and applied healing coral paste to dulled scales. Each healing you assist, Queen Moremi declared, brings you one step closer to your own redemption. Days passed, though time moves differently in the ocean depths. Babajid learned the ways of the water spirits, their customs, their harmony with ocean life, their deep connection to the waters that humans too often took for granted. One evening, as bioluminescent plankton danced through the water like stars, Queen Moremi called a council. All the water spirits gathered, including those who had helped with the rescue in Lagos. Babajid and Ayomide stood before them. The time has come to decide, the Queen announced. Babajid has worked to heal what he damaged. Ayomide has learned our ways. Now we must choose. What price must be paid for the balance to be restored? The council debated long into the night. Some argued for harsh punishment, others for mercy. Finally, Adesewa spoke up. Let him be our bridge, she suggested. Let him be the one to teach others about our realm, to prevent such crimes from happening again. Queen Moremi considered this. A lifetime of service then. To protect rather than exploit. I accept, Babajidi said quickly, but please, let my daughter return home to her mother. The Queen raised her coral staff, and the water around them began to glow. So be it. You shall be our guardian in the human world. When the moon is full, you will help us patrol the waters, ensuring no other human repeats your mistakes. Your family may live by the ocean, but you must dedicate your life to protecting our realm. She touched Babajidi's forehead, marking him with a symbol that glowed like phosphorescent algae. This mark will let you breathe underwater during the full moon and will identify you as a friend of Olokun's people. But remember, betray this trust and the consequences will be final. The journey back to the surface was bittersweet. Ayomide said goodbye to her water spirit friends, promising to remember their songs. Babajidi carried with him new wisdom and a profound understanding of the world beneath the waves. They emerged from the ocean at dawn, where Fola Shade was waiting on the beach. The family's reunion was tearful and joyous, witnessed by the entire village. In the years that followed, Babajid kept his promise. He became known as the guardian of Adara's waters, teaching younger generations about respect for the ocean and its inhabitants. During full moons, he would disappear beneath the waves, helping the water spirits protect their realm. The golden net that had started everything was returned to the ocean in a special ceremony, where it dissolved into streams of light that danced across the waves before disappearing into the depths. Ayomide grew up to become a priestess of Olokun, bridging the human and spirit worlds in her own way. She never lost her ability to sing the water spirit's songs, and on quiet nights, the ocean would sing back to her. The village of Adara prospered, not through exploitation, but through harmony. Fishermen learned to take only what they needed, and in return, the ocean provided abundantly. The water spirits would sometimes be seen playing with dolphins near the shore, no longer afraid of human greed. And sometimes, when the moon was full and the tide was high, those walking on the beach might hear strange and beautiful music drifting across the waves, the songs of two worlds, finally in balance once again.
Write the word "continue" in the comment section if you want the next part, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching. Kindly click the subscribe button, like, comment, and share this video. Watch out for more intriguing and eye-catching videos from your favorite YouTube channel.